We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. May we live in peace and friendship with its people. And first, I'd like to thank the Atlantic Opportunity Agency, commonly known as ACOA, and the Department of Seniors, without whom we would be unable to host these events because they're main supporters. Seniors epitomize diversity, and the needs of all must be addressed is sort of the overriding comment in my presentation. All right, in this presentation, we will be covering a variety of different things, and the agenda really covers an introduction, which to Aging 2 and the Living Lab, which Dr. Ed Leith will present, Women, Technology, and Rural Communities with Dr. Olive Bryanton, the value of basic smart tech for seniors, which is yours truly, John Hamblin, expanded smart tech and its use in the home, featuring our prolific or extreme user, Nathan Dennison. And I just wanted to point out that each of the three presenters are really presenting stories based on their personal experiences and will highlight key issues and lessons learned. I will now stop my screen sharing and let Ed start. Dr. Ed Leach, who is the ambassador of Aging2 Halifax chapter and a huge supporter and proponent of all things senior.
Welcome, everybody. The two pieces we're doing today are a continuation from the Innovate Care Conference that we held October 4th and 5th. The December 8th webinar, where John did a presentation on a variety of different technologies, and the lead engineer for Alexa Health from Amazon shared the design principles that Amazon is using to design product for the older generation, primarily by listening, which I know from Olive's point of view is the very thing that we need the most in all of this for our voices to be heard. Going to give you a small taste of what's upcoming in the work that we want to do here in Nova Scotia, PEI, and in the Atlantic region about rolling out a living lab. This is the mission of Aging 2.0 Halifax. And you, rather than read it, you can see it on your screens. It's inclusive, and it definitely is working to change their narrative so that people at the ages that we're at, I'm 71, John's a tad older than that, can have meaningful and dignified lives where they get to continue to contribute to society and pass on the knowledge that is inherently in the wisdom of the elders. Here are some of the impacts of what we see in the living lab. You can see that there are both economic and social consequences. If people are happy, and I don't use that word in a trivial way, if they feel that they are able to be worthy and to contribute, makes a huge difference in their health outcomes, which has an impact on costs. The odds of the very smart companies that are present here in the Atlantic region to address the true needs of seniors is extraordinary. We have the raw material in terms of the entrepreneurial community, both in existing firms and new firms, but we just need to find a way to have that properly tapped into, which is what the Living Lab will provide. And the core principles are dignity, respect, and self-worth, a phrase I heard first from Olive, nothing about us without us. Aging 2.0 is a large, and I mean large, international not-for-profit, started 4 to 5 years ago by Stephen Johnson and one of his other partners, currently something in the order of 140 chapters worldwide. And this allows we here in Halifax to be connected to a number of voices that they are well heard, well understood, and are listened to internationally. This is an example of some of the work and topics that Aging 2.0 is involved in. Pleased to share with you that John Hamblin is part of the Crossing the Digital Divide topic team, and they're just in the process of publishing a white paper. How big is this opportunity that we've all talked about? A 2019 study by the American Association of Retired People would suggest that by 2050, it's going to be 27.5 trillion. That's trillion with a T dollars, US dollars by that point in time. And today, 56 cents of every dollar spent is being spent by people 50 plus, and that's expected to increase to 61 cents. Hold on for a second. Do you mean that older people are the fundamental drivers of any economy? Hell yeah. But we don't recognize it. We've been trained through life experience, government policy, and other methods to not think of ourselves that way. Well, that's the truth. And is there any evidence that here in the Atlantic region we have the power to make a difference? I'm not going to read these names other than to say these are folks, scientists, researchers, entrepreneurs who are doing world-class things right here in Nova Scotia very quietly and somewhat detached from the longevity economy piece, but we have the power to do this. We can, in fact, become a leading voice. We can become, in Canada, the Silicon Valley of aging. That being said, I'm going to turn this back to John.
In starting, I will say that my part of the presentation, I'm glad everyone joined. Thank you very much. The value of basic smart tech for seniors is really what I'm talking about. I'm your facilitator. Please feel free to jot down any questions you may have in the Q&A frame, and we'll try to ensure that they get answered at the end. However, if they don't get answered, please feel free to email me, and I will make sure you get answers after the fact. Before we go too far in the process, I just have two, I guess I'd call them publicity things that I'd like to share. Things that involve either myself and or Aging2. And I'd like to publicize them here. The first is a virtual advisor program for helping seniors and not-for-profits to combat the issues that they face as a result of COVID-19. It was launched in January of 2021 to help organizations navigate issues and challenges. It's an absolutely free program for seniors-led businesses and not-for-profits, thanks to the Department of Seniors who subsidize it. Aging2 Halifax has combined with Boomers Plus to offer this program, which provides truly experienced advisors. Sign up or pass on the information to those that are of interest to you. That it is really a great opportunity. If you go to Boomers Plus VAP, it'll show you the details and how to sign on. The virtual advisors, generally speaking, have 15 plus years of wisdom and experience. They will contact the people, work with them on the phone, exchange information, provide guidance. And it's an opportunity that is hard to pass up. We have some spaces left still and would be glad to hear from you. These are just a couple of examples. I won't go through them in detail, but these are virtual advisors that have done have gone through the giving of advice in various areas. They work both with not-for-profits and any senior-led businesses that has issues and wants someone senior who really understands that specific area of business, be it marketing, sales, finance, whatever. They can come in, support you, and help you get over the hump. It's a great program that every NFP or seniors-led business should take advantage of. Spread the word about the program to those that aren't on this call that you know of, that you feel could be take advantage of it. Sign up or sign up yourself. My second little, and this will be quick too, I happen to be on the board of Community Links Nova Scotia, an organization that specializes in supporting both seniors and organizations across the province that support seniors. Basically, the website is listed at the top. They've been around since 1992. They've built a trusted role among stakeholders. They help ensure Nova Scotians have the tools they need to stay connected, be supported within their diverse communities, live healthy and engaged lives. This this year, they will be making a big push towards age-friendly communities and helping both seniors more through online activities and as well through having boots on the ground, which is one of the things this organization has that few others do. They have regional representatives in most regions of this province, and they actually work with the local communities and the coalitions. I just wanted to mention it because if you're not aware of it, it's an organization that you're going to hear more about, and it truly is supporting seniors in Nova Scotia. Now back to my presentation. Isolation, loneliness, and depression. Suddenly, these are major issues due to COVID-19, but in reality, they're not new at all. This has been going on for years. This was what introduced me to the whole idea of voice response system. This is a 4-year-old Google Home Mini, a really small device. I'll just speak to it to give you an idea. Hey Google, what's my day?
Good afternoon, John. It's 1:57 p.m. Right.
Hey Google,
Hey,
cancel.
Google, stop.
I bought one of those 4 years ago when I happened to be all by myself and in Arizona, and started using it. I quickly determined that this was hugely useful to me as an independently living senior, and that it might be of use to others. I then contacted both Amazon and Google, and after many calls and many different passing from one to another, I found a group at Google who are actually working on developing software specifically geared to seniors to work with the Google devices. After several bouts and signing of confidentiality agreements and others, I started a project here called Voice Response System. What happened was that 35 independent living seniors were equipped with Google Home devices, the basic little device that a guy had, and software that they were developing. The object that we were striving for was to cut isolation and enhance communications. The results were outstanding. But I will point out at the bottom, as I said, there's a lot of communication in age-friendly communities, but smart tech can be an added tool to help seniors live independently and enjoy life. In this project, we looked at a variety of voice technology, and first I will list what's available in voice technology and what it does. These devices allow you to communicate better, stay informed, monitor your health, control the environment, enhance safety and security, take advantage of the ease and value of telehealth, and much more is coming. In this presentation, I'm really concentrating on the basic element being voice communications systems and how they work. What voice response systems do is they provide instant access to information, instant access to alarms and reminders. You can set up free calls anywhere in the US or Canada, simplified inquiries and communications, easy 24/7 contact of the world around you. And I stress that because a lot of people think of seniors as needing some type of assistance and sort of arranging for scheduled calls and scheduled things, which are absolutely great. But to have a device where I can, at 3 a.m. when I wake up, which I always do, get information from, find out what's happening in the world, is just an amazing addition to my life and works the same way for all seniors. From the study we went through, we did several surveys of the 35 who were using it, 32 to be exact, 3 of them weren't actually in it. And these were the top uses by seniors. Ad hoc answers to random questions, phone calls. They just loved getting free calls anywhere in North America, and how easy it was to connect using only your voice. They use it for reminders for medications, appointments, shopping lists, news. They could set it up to hear their favorite news network. I myself get 95.7 in the morning when I wake up and get the news as soon as I get up. And you can get music, free basic services, radio stations, etc. And one which wasn't high on my list, but ended up being quite high was recipes. And in the case of recipes, you can get either the recipe for your cheesecake, or you can get step-by-step instructions on how to do it and follow it along. These are just a few of the many items you can cover. Through the study, we did several surveys. We went through how much they enjoyed it, how they liked it, didn't like it. And really, the keynote I would say is they loved the free calling and they loved the other features. And, we said at the end of the study in our last survey, if we were to take the device away from you, what would you do? And of the 32, 31 said, I'd go out and buy a device right away because I don't think I want to live without one. And the other person was just a maybe. But the devices also were found because we did little subgroups within the study. They had identifiable impact on the mental state of the participants. And this was verified by caregivers. We'd have group calls and they would see that people who had been despondent, depressed, and felt left out now felt like they were part of the community, had people to talk to, and just enjoyed life. Users communicated more and were happier. It combats many aspects of isolation and allows seniors to be informed. The true value of the system is anyone who can speak has easy access to information. The costs can be minimal as long as you have internet access, and we'll talk about that a bit in a few seconds. And for those with limited mobility or limited dexterity, the voice response system is a huge advantage. And in the case of 4 individuals who had severe mobility issues, they found it life-changing. They could now get access to information. They could do all the things they couldn't do because they either had sight issues and couldn't see screens, or had hand issues and couldn't do inquiries using a keyboard. To be able to stand there, to be able to sit there and say, what's the weather out, or call my brother, or whatever else, is life-changing for these people. But smart tech can do much more. It allows you to have safety and security. There are cameras, locks, motion sensors, doorbells, all sorts of items. There's convenience, thermostats, electric blinds, smart plugs, all things that you can control with the voice response system and your voice. Entertainment. If you have a screen device, you can watch YouTube, movies, series, streaming, and you can do Skype and just starting now, this type of Zoom call, you can handle it entirely on something like an Amazon Echo 7. I'll just turn my little device around a little here and say, there's my Echo 7. On this device, I watch YouTube, I get updates, and it's a relatively inexpensive device. But going more than that, you get into proactive health monitoring using sensors and health analysis. You can analyze glucose, blood pressure, a variety of other things. And now, of course, with the pandemic, there's a sudden push on telehealth. You can do online consultations, remote treatments. We're going to have a series of webinars over the year that will cover these areas in detail. And Nathan will talk about some of the key features in his presentation, which will be starting very shortly. Now, I invented actually, my daughter invented a new logo, Equity for Seniors. Now, many of us often talk about equity as being buying shares in a company, but what equity really means is equal and fair opportunity for all. And that's all we're looking for as seniors, and something that is severely lacking at the present time, in my humble, grumpy opinion. All seniors deserve inclusion and should be able to use the equipment to their advantage. Now, looking at it from a technology perspective, obviously the main thing you need for these devices is internet access. And the tech is coming, as was reported to me just recently. Internet service in remote areas of Nova Scotia is now up to 88%. There's a major project underway so that it should be up to 99% by 2023. As well, Starlink satellite service, which some of you may be aware of, it's an Elon Musk spin-off that is launching several thousand satellites in low orbit. And they're already up there. They cover the area of North America. And as of the week before last, I got my invitation to be part of the pilot, and they're accepting subscriptions now at the starlink.com website. But obviously, these services come with a cost. As a country and a province, we need to have equity for seniors. We say we are pro seniors and pro diversity and want to service all people equally, but this is not always the way, and seniors are not always treated as equal. Let's look at some basic facts. 205,000 Nova Scotians get old age security, but of this group, 71,000, representing 35%, receive the guaranteed income supplement. To get GIS, the max income you can have is 18,648 for a year, or 24,000 for a couple. What does this mean? It means there's no way in hell that you can afford internet access and smart devices. Many people cannot afford the technology needed to even access the internet, let alone support smart tech. Help is needed. Internet and basic smart devices should be subsidized for all seniors who cannot afford to pay. I'm not suggesting that the government do some great thing where it says anyone over 65 will give you $1,000 towards devices and internet. I'm suggesting that it be on a need basis, but we do need this. Governments need to recognize the need and value of having seniors stay in their home and must subsidize where necessary. Communities need to build networks for seniors to get the support that they need. There are colleges throughout the province, universities, and tech-savvy community members who would love to assist others, and we need to do this. All seniors given the choice wish to remain independent, and the communities need to work for this. Canada is a great country built on diversity and inclusion, and we need to support equity for seniors. The big push this year is going to be age-friendly communities. There are all kinds of initiatives, and this is something that we all need to be part of. That is all I'm presenting today. This is just a brief intro. I'm going to turn it over to Nathan, who will show more of the prolific number of devices that he has and talk about it. This is you may notice the Grumpy is my middle name. My granddaughters named me that. I don't have any idea quite why. But the fact is that I can be kind of grumpy, particularly when I get upset about the lack of support that seniors get. There's the email and an 800 number that you can use that comes directly to my phone wherever I may be. Thank you very much. And I will now stop my sharing and let Nathan take over.
Thanks, John. As has been, I think, my experience with a lot of these Zoom calls, my dogs have been nice and quiet for the last hour, and they just started barking at something outside. So bear with me if you hear that in the background. So over the weekend, after talking to John a little bit, I decided that to show off some of the interconnectedness of the smart devices and a lot of these smart assistants, that I'd actually shoot a bit of a video. So I've got that embedded in the presentation. So we'll get to that here shortly. And that should actually give you guys a really kind of bit of an overview of how a lot of my devices do interconnect. To both Ed and John's points earlier, I'm a bit of an early adopter in this space. And actually on business trips before they were even available in Canada, I did go pick up, Amazon Echo devices, make sure I could kind of program them to work at home. And then later the Google Assistant devices, so the Google Home, once it was available. And that's, I think, a common theme for me here, because I did that even with an iPhone. I realized, John, actually back in 2007 when it first dropped, I took a trip down to Boston and bought one and had to jailbreak it. So I think the early adopter moniker kind of fits really well. The big overview I wanted to kind of give about how these devices can really help with accessibility needs is both kind of interacting with a lot of basic functions in and around the home, as well as, to John mentioned, connecting to media, whether that's music, news, weather, loved ones via phone-like services and VoIP. So the devices can do a wide range of things. Another conversation John and I had, pretty detailed, is the setup of the devices themselves, just a Google Home or Amazon Echo, or an Apple HomePod itself is fairly simple. But as you start to add more and more devices, you do start to have potentially kind of some setup costs involved. But there are lots of different individuals who can help that. And, if John successfully advocates for kind of credits for seniors, I think that that'd be a great opportunity, both seniors and anyone with accessibility needs, to have the setup and installation of devices that'll improve their quality of living. So the smart speakers John showed you include video now. So speakers is actually even a broader term than it used to be. Predominantly big players are Google, Amazon, and Apple, with other brands kind of biting at the edges of that. In order to interact with media on televisions, there are smart TVs with built-in assistants, but there's also lots of devices now that you can actually plug right into the TV. I unplugged one of my Chromecasts if I was going to do a show and tell, but the video does a better job of that. But so that Chromecast would be Google's solution. Amazon has their Fire TV, Apple TV, and then brands that you might not be as familiar with, like Roku, that are kind of providing third-party services. The smart bulbs that I've gone with in my home are all by Philips. So it's the Philips Hue system, which was one of the more common and easier to integrate solutions. However, there's smart bulbs from basically every different light bulb manufacturer. Even actually IKEA has their own smart light bulb brand. So there's lots of availability there. And smart light bulbs often actually feel like the type of device that might be a bit, superfluous for many people. Why do they need to be able to control their lights via, a phone or a, smart assistant? But it actually is a tremendous value add into the homes, both for not having to get up and find a light switch, especially if it's in a dark room, especially for individuals who are visually impaired. But being able to set up motion sensors in hallways to turn lights on automatically can really improve some mobility issues there. Smart locks are another kind of fairly new addition to the smart home ecosystem, and there's a wide range of these. In my home, we've gone with August as the smart lock brand, partially actually because we started purchasing those for a condo that was in a multi-unit building. And what we really liked about the August smart lock solution is that it doesn't replace the whole lock. So I'll show that in the video, but it just actually goes onto the back of it. So you don't have to worry about changing the hardware, changing your keys or anything like that. Thermostats are another area that's kind of seen a big change in this space, both because some of them, like the Nest thermostat, are themselves smart. So it'll actually learn based on settings that you don't have to program in, just how you use it. So it'll adjust the heating for the times of the day when you most need it. Ecobee, even popular brands like Honeywell are getting into that space too. And these can interact with the smart home speakers. Security cameras are actually a new addition into our home for this. We debated actually installing them, but some of the brands, like actually see Blink on the end and Arlo in the middle, are great because they are easy to set up. You don't actually even need to run any wires. They connect to your Wi-Fi network. So that for exterior cameras outside the home, you're not drilling holes in your siding or having someone install a complicated system. And I mean, years ago, I actually worked in audio video installation, and setting up security systems used to be a massive undertaking. Whereas when I set up our Blink cameras, it took about half an hour to set up half a dozen of them. This was before a lot of you joined on. Ed was, I think, trying to make fun of me, but I happen to own about 6 Roombas in our house, partially because of a lot of stairs, but also these are actually starting to expand in their functionality beyond just being robot vacuums, which they initially were. So you've got mopping capabilities, so effectively a robot Swiffer wet jet. And like I mentioned, I've got some dogs here and a cat, so having Roomba vacuum basically every single day is a godsend for sure. And then the other thing I want to make sure that I added into the presentation is the health and fitness side. So these can integrate into your smart devices like your Google Homes, so you can check in on them. But I really wanted to actually say it's made a big difference. So my partner, Jennifer, had to have a surgery this year. And because of the concerns around COVID, she wasn't able to go to see the doctor nearly as often for some of the checkups. The doctor actually strongly recommended getting a smartwatch that could do O2 levels for her blood. And so she picked up one of the Fitbit Versa watches, which I don't have pictured here, but Fitbit was the second there from the left. And that device actually was able to give her constant readings and let her know if she actually did need to go see the doctor at a time when seeing the doctor was more difficult than usual. In terms of the fitness, obviously smart scales is a important function as part of that. And those fit into ecosystems of health and fitness devices that can kind of aggregate a lot of that together. Last time I went to the doctor, I don't know if he was expecting it, but I had a Excel file with all of my heart rate basically for the last 3 months since I'd seen him last. So lets him actually look at things in between our visits. So hopefully this video works here for everyone. But I'm going to play that. It's about 10 minutes, and I'll actually give a warning that if you do have smart devices from either Google or Amazon nearby or within audio range, you might want to mute them or put in a headset, because they will definitely get triggered by some of the wake phrases. These Google Home speakers are actually the kind of brain or the main control system that we use throughout the entire house. We've got them peppered in basically every room. But they do everything from let us know what the weather is or temperature in the house. They can control all of the smart devices that I'm going to walk through and show you. But we use it more for very mundane things like, okay, Google, set a 15-minute timer called Cook Chicken.
Sure, a 15-minute timer called Cooked Chicken. And we're starting now.
Like that. We also use it for
finding out answers to common questions. Okay, Google, what's a common substitute for time?
Oregano. Here's a summary from the website occasionallyx.com. Fresh or dried, oregano makes a great time substitute. The flavors are very similar, both being in the mint family, and it's an almost imperceptible switch. You can use oregano for time in virtually any recipe.
Okay, Google, stop. So that was a great example of one of the potential problems with having these devices in basically every room. It's really easy for
multiple devices to catch you. And for answering questions like what is time or what is a good substitute for time, answers like oregano are perfect. But if I was setting a timer and the dining room got me, I might not hear it go off if I'm in the kitchen. Okay, Google. Good morning.
Good evening, Nathan. The time is 8:40 p.m. Right now in Upper Tantallon, it's -3 degrees and mostly cloudy. Tonight, it's predicted to be -4 degrees and mostly cloudy. Due to current wind conditions, it feels like it's -7. By the way, you need to clean Frizz chin. Have a nice day. Here's the latest news.
Okay,
Resuming
Google,
NPR
stop.
News.
So it just reminded me that I needed to clean my cat's chin. Obviously, if the Google's still active, if it's still listening to you, it's easy for it to get confused. But when it's off, like it is now, I can say effectively anything except its wake phrase, "Okay, Google," without it getting confused. "Hey, Google, if it's that cold, what's the temperature in the kitchen?"
I understood. What's the temperature in the kitchen? Is that right?
Yes.
Heating is set to 18 degrees with a current temperature of 20 degrees.
So that's our Nest thermostat that it's plugging into, which is actually just on the wall right over here. You can see it's set to 18 degrees, just like Google told us. Okay, Google, set the kitchen to 16 degrees.
Sure, setting kitchen to 16 degrees.
And while you can see it changed immediately, and I'm obviously within arm's reach, so I could have done that with any traditional thermostat, we can do this from anywhere in the house. So it's a very common thing we make sure to do before we went to bed at night, or to adjust it throughout the day. We also regularly use our Google Home speakers as speakers, surprisingly enough, for everything from music to news. Hey Google, play some music.
Playing some music on Spotify.
Okay Google, what's in the news?
Here's the latest news. From NPR News Now at 8 p.m. today.
Live from NPR News, I'm Janine Herbst.
Okay Google.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy.
Stop. Hey Google, what's the temperature outside?
In Upper Tantallon, Nova Scotia right now, it's minus 4 degrees. Due to current wind conditions, it feels like it's minus 8.
That's probably one of our more common questions when we have to go walk the dogs. Once you have the system set up, the Philips Hue bulbs are actually really great because they fit into any of your traditional lamps or other light fixtures. And then you can say broad statements like, hey Google, turn on the office lights. Or specific ones like, hey Google, turn off the flower lamp. These little motion sensors from Philips Hue are very convenient in hallways or other spaces that you really only need the lights on for a few minutes. Just by entering the hall, the lights will turn on. You don't have to worry about looking for that light switch. While most of our smart home controllers are the Google devices, we decided to introduce some Amazon Echo devices into kind of the collection too. This Echo Show is really great because with our security cameras, we can issue commands like, Alexa, show me the front door.
Okay.
So it's connecting to the Blink cameras, which are our smart cameras that we have all around the house. You can see it's getting a live feed outside there. It's dark out there, which is why they are in kind of its night mode. But you can see the lights that are connected to the house. Those are actually Philips Hue lights also. So let's try to actually do something fun with those. Okay, Google, set the patio lights to pink.
All right, changing 2 lights to pink.
The camera in night mode didn't really pick that up, but you can see that they did something. Okay, Google, turn off the patio lights.
Okay, turning 3 lights off.
There you go. You can see those lights are actually quite far away from where I'm standing at the moment. But with the smart home devices, you can control all kinds of things. Smart locks, like this one from August, are useful because you can lock or unlock them from either your smart home controllers or a smartphone. Okay, Google, lock the front door.
Sure, requesting to lock front door. Front door has been locked.
And with the August smart locks, if you're worried about security of someone just shouting at your house to let them in, there are security measures in place to stop that. So if I were to say, okay, Google, unlock the front door,
Can I have your PIN?
it'll ask for my PIN in order to get in. One thing that I really love about the August smart locks compared to some of the other smart locks is that you don't actually have to replace the entire lock. So it's great for actually living in a multi-unit building, apartments, condos, anything like that. So this device actually just bolts onto the back where the deadbolt was. And so you can release it. And then this plate just swaps in and out where the old deadbolt mechanism went. So the lock is exactly the same, no changing keys, no external hardware that's visible from outside of your home. Pairing smart vacuums like this one from iRobot with the smart home devices makes for a really powerful combination. Okay, Google, start Eufy.
All right, starting you.
Using smart TV attachments that actually work with basically any modern HD TV, like this one, the Google Chromecast, is a great addition too, because you can easily do things like a nice personalized slideshow, as me at a video game conference, but also be able to control it with, once again, your smart home controllers. Okay, Google, play Bridgerton. So with a simple command to the Google Home, it's able to know the show I want was on Netflix, to use Netflix to pull up an episode of the television show, and play it on the TV in the same room as the Google Home device. Furthermore, when you're using the Google Home to control your television experience, it makes searching for a remote a thing of the past. You can do anything from saying, okay, Google, pause. Okay, Google, resume. Okay, Google, set the volume to 20%. Okay, Google, stop. In this shot, you can actually see my blink camera in the top left corner, but I was going to show you one of the more for fun features that we use with our Philips Hue lights. Instead of Christmas lights, sometimes we just say, okay, Google, set the patio lights to green. So yeah, that gave a pretty good overview of a handful of the different devices that we have set up in the home. We've got a few other kind of options that are a bit more complicated to set up, but surprisingly, all of that, which does seem complicated, was more or less just out of the box that someone with a bit of familiarity with the smart devices would have no problem setting up. So whether that be the individual who's going to be the end user, or family, friends, caregivers, or installation professionals if need be. So I hope that we're able to have lots of time for some questions after the fact, but I know we've got at least one more presentation. So I'll give it back to you, John.
Thanks a lot, Nathan. You do have an awful lot of different devices. I did ask Nathan at one point in time how many devices he had, and he gave me this list, which included 47 smart lights and 6 Roombas. And incidentally, while this was going on, my Roomba banged on the door because I had the door closed, and it's set to go to do its little rounds at 2 o'clock. I just wanted to mention, in follow-up to Nathan's remark about motion sensitive lights and the like, if you're looking for something which seniors can truly use, and I'm speaking about this personally, that is incredibly cheap, Amazon have this device called the Amazon Flex, which, as you can see, has a plug in the back. It does all the same things as all the other Amazon devices, except all you have to do once is plug it into an outlet. Now, it's very cheap. I bought this one at a sale for $15, but you can also buy lights that go with it and hook in as a USB connection. So this is a smart motion detecting light that hooks directly into the device. So I stick this in the light socket in an outlet in the hall, and I have another one in an outlet in my bathroom. And when I get up at night, I can not only see where I'm going, thus cutting out the chances of falling on my face. And as well, I feel, a lot of seniors get worried. They feel nervous in the dark. I don't have to worry about that. And probably something I shouldn't be talking too much. Sorry, something I shouldn't be talking too much about. But when I'm in the bathroom in the middle of the night and I suddenly want to know what the weather's going to be at 8 a.m., this lovely little Google that's plugged in my bathroom answers the question for me without disturbing anyone else. Simple, easy, the cheapest device there is. Now, I'm done. I will introduce you to our feature speaker, I would say, Olive Bryton, who, as many of you know, from past, I've listened to Olive a talk that was done by Agewell. I listened to her also. She was a spokesperson at the World Health Organization launching of their Decade of Healthy Aging report. She was she's a phenomenal inspiration to seniors in general, having, among other things, got her PhD in May of 2019 at the convocations at UPEI then, at the very young age of 82. And she is heavily involved in all things supporting seniors. And as it says, a proudly visible member of the most invisible segment of our society, older women. Olive, as part of her studies, did an analysis of senior women living in rural PEI. And I think the findings that she will talk about in her story today will be really interesting for all of us. Olive, if you'd like to share your screen.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you very much for inviting me to be part of today's presentation. I am no expert. Let me just get myself into slideshow. Okay. I'm certainly no expert on technology, but I do use technology. So this is based on some of my own personal experience and also on the older adults that were in my study. Okay. So my qualifications to speak on this topic are my own lived experience, technology understandings of the older women in my research, technology barriers I have learned about, and finally a bit about the future realities in technology for older adults. So my own lived experience, I'm an older woman who have used a variety of technologies. I have used home automation like electrical appliances, microwaves, washers and dryers, reclining chairs, all things that are around your house and seem like ordinary things now, but often that type of thing is something that we have to learn to use. And there are still some things that give me problems. The entertainment appliances like televisions, VCRs, radios, remote controls. Remote controls drive me mad because For example, with a television, many times you need to have more than one remote control to make them work properly. Or if I hit the wrong button, I end up having to wait until my daughter gets home so she can hit the right button for me. And then the information technologies, like the computers, the printers, the digital cameras, cell phones, they all bring their own special challenges with them. Then we hear about the communication systems like the wireless signals and the internet. And then the online data sharing, which is like what we're working with today, the Zooms, the Skypes, and there are many platforms, and each one has their own special features. And then there's also the file sharing on cloud-based systems. And again, this is something that we have to learn. So I also have some technology or experience with technology glitches. And we certainly do get lots of technology glitches at times, like your computer freezes, something malfunctions. And so what do you do when this happens? Well, I said I had experience in using or with the glitches, but I don't have the expertise to always fix those glitches. So in my situation, I have a son who seems to know everything they needs to know about computers, and he's always willing to bail me out. And I also have a daughter who's very savvy about online data sharing programs and file sharing on cloud-based systems. And because for some reason, I always have difficulties in my filing system, I often have to call on her as well. I know I'm very, very lucky because my children live close by, but sometimes I feel guilty that I'm calling on them to work to fix things for me. But I also know that if I didn't call on them, they would be upset. By asking them for help, I'm giving them the opportunity to support me as I age. I also learned that I don't have to know everything about technology. I just need to know who to call if I need support, and I need to know how to use the tool that I need to create my masterpieces. Then many of us have grandchildren and great-grandchildren who never knew life without technology. If you ask them what they learn, when they learn to use a computer, they will look at you rather blankly and have no idea what you're talking about, because computers have always been part of their life. On the other hand, if you ask a younger person to use a dial telephone, which came on the market when I was going through my life, they would have no idea what you're talking about. They would not know how to use it. And so it's proof that life is a learning process, and we all can share our knowledge to help everyone else. So the realities of the women in my study. So my research participants were 10 women age 85 to 91, and they all lived in rural communities. 6 of my participants were computer users, and the majority of the use of their computers was to connect with family, friends, to share family stories and photos, play games, share information. But for 4 of my participants, they used their computers more extensively. They prepared meeting materials, did research, sought more information on topics of interest to them, and two of my participants also did online banking, searched and booked holidays, and they also did shopping online. But I think the biggest hurdle was their vision of what technology actually includes. Their belief that computers and other electronic gadgets are beyond their capabilities and knowledge. So what were the technologies they used? Well, they used radios, cell phones, appliances, TVs, this other way, see, alarm systems, assistive devices, and for most of them, they also used motor vehicles. But the phrase I heard most from the older women was, "I'm too old to learn," which is such a false thing to believe in. But I think the idea that we have been using different technologies all of our lives seemed to be a surprise to them. And that's because they thought of a technology as just computers or smartphones or tablets. So I think when we talked about technologies and they began to see what technologies really were, I think they began to think or realize that they have been using technology all their life. They just didn't know it. So I think they could begin to believe that anything is possible because they were learning all their lives. So instead of always hearing the stereotypical ageist rhetoric that older men and women would have difficulties using technology, especially older women, I think it's time we started to inform older adults, policymakers, and others that the realities are the system has failed older adults and has placed them in what's called the digital divide category. So some of the barriers to using technology is the lack of basic instructions, the lack of ongoing technical support, and useful teaching moments. Now, what I mean by that, if we have difficulty with our technology and we call someone in, either we pay someone to come in or we benefit from our family members who can support us, because they have grown up in an ageist society and does not even think that older women can learn, they are missing this teaching moment. They quickly fix the problem, but they forget to help that person grow and build confidence by teaching them how to fix their computer or whatever problem they're having with technology. So the building confidence and providing new tools support self-empowerment, and that is definitely lacking. The lack of confidence in themselves. A good example is older adults have concerns and fears that they might break something or hit a wrong key and delete everything. Now, that's something that younger learners do not have to think about because they don't have the life experience to know such a thing is possible. So they're fearless when they work with technology, whereas older adults bring all the possibilities that could happen if they don't know what they're doing. Some of the other barriers. Technology is not designed for end users. Technology is designed to constantly be updated, and it has way too much in it, built into it, that most of us never use at all. And they do until Agewell started seeing the value of older adults as part of the advisory team and insist that older adults be part of any product, service, or program that's developed to impact on their lives. They should be part of that. And that is why I say nothing about us without us. So to design a product, a technology that's going to be beneficial for older adults must be part of the advisory team. They also must understand how that technology works, why it would be something that would be beneficial to them. And then, as Nathan mentioned, there are the health-related barriers. So we also need to think about those as we are developing technologies. And again, the benefit of having an older adult as part of the advisory team. Then there are the financial barriers, especially when it comes to women. Many women are left with few financial supports as they grow older, especially if they become a widow and do no longer benefit from the second funding that may be coming into the household. So that has to be thought about. And then when you live in a rural community, there's that terrible internet connection, which in many cases is worse than the old dial-up system. Actually, I myself have dealt with that up until about 2 months ago. And 2 months ago, in our part of the rural community, we did get fiber up, and that has made all the difference in the world. And then another barrier to technology is ageism, where people have been led to believe that they don't have, when they get older, they don't have the knowledge or the skills to deal with technology. So the lack of knowing the benefits of technology and why it may be useful is also a barrier. So what is our future? Well, technology really is our new reality. As older adults, we're forced to embrace technology, but user-friendly tools are not provided. As older adults, we must acknowledge and build on our own capabilities and strengths and continue to learn, grow, and share our knowledge. As older adults, we are obliged to fight ageism and reclaim our right to age with dignity. As older adults, we must break down the silos and work together to create holistic communities where all ages are valued and respected. I also would like to say that technology is not our enemy. As older adults, we can be our own worst enemies because we do not recognize our own strengths. We need to recognize that ageism has impacted societies and shaped the way we think, feel, and act toward age and aging. The myths and stereotypes we have been taught about growing older do not match the realities we experience when we become older ourselves. As adults, we must reject ageism and get rid of the silos that separate us. And we need to create solidarity by working with all generations to create communities that support and value all citizens, regardless of abilities, age, or any other ageism we constantly deal with. So, thank you.
Okay, well, first I want to thank Olive. Her views and understanding of seniors are far superior to most, and certainly her story and presentation fit kind of well with my own personal view and what I discussed primarily in my talk being equity for seniors. I think that the one of the main issues that Olive mentioned, which I think since we're all striving for age-friendly communities, has to be one of our number one priorities, is to ensure that all seniors, and for that matter anyone else, but particularly seniors in our communities, have access to the training and support and who you're going to call or who you're going to contact for any problems that they have. We can give training over the internet, and we're certainly looking at doing that. If we finally get back to live meetings with people and live one-on-ones, we need to set up a system where we can help seniors learn the technology and get on it and benefit from it. And I guess the other, in my equity of seniors, bug in my head is government support and subsidies for seniors. There are many countries who have incorporated this now that have support for seniors to get internet access, to get training, to get devices. I'm not suggesting we go out and buy seniors 6 Roombas, but I am suggesting that seniors should be provided with basic technology that can allow them to enjoy their life more and live better, and that the governments are lax if they don't move forward on this. And I think we should all be pushing governments to do that. I think at this point in time, I've probably been on my soapbox too much today, and I'll stop chatting. I think it was a good session. As I said earlier on, if anybody would like a recording of the session and/or any further information, we're pretty well up to our full time. And so I think the idea with regards to questions would be that if you have specific questions or points that you want to make or further information you need, to forward them to myself or to Ed or to, and we will certainly make sure that you get responses. If you're looking for a recording, we will send the link once we're going to edit it and divide it into chunks possibly. And once that's done within the next few days, we will send the link to all the participants so that anyone who wants to can get a copy of the recording. And I'll pass it back to Ed now.
Unmute. Thank you, John, and thank you to Olive and Nathan, all who presented. Nathan, I wasn't making fun of your Roombas. I was in awe of your Roombas and what you were up to. I've known Nathan in other venues for other reasons over the last 6 or 7 years. Really interesting all the way around. This is the preview to wanting to get the Living Lab established on an Atlantic basis. We are certainly going to start here in New Brunswick. We're working with Olive to see if we can incorporate something in PEI at the same time. Being old is good. Being old is an opportunity. Being old is something to be enjoyed and shared with others. And I'm looking at the comments in the chat box. You've managed to accomplish that in spades. Thank you very much. With that being said, stay tuned. More stuff coming. Expecting a major announcement in the second quarter of this year with regard to the Living Lab moving forward. Thank you all.
Thanks again, Olive. Thanks all of you for participating. Let us know if we can do any more for you, and take care.